Welcome. We're so glad you're here tonight. We're going to be talking about enduring what is real with a touch of grace. And basically, with everything going on, we thought that might be a good topic. And while it might sound a little heavy, one of the things that Rick and I have both found is that when we get down to the real part, when we stop being caught up in the drama and the fear and the running away and the dreams, like, oh, I wish it was something else, often there's a bedrock there where we can really be in that grace, in that space of joy in quiet moments, joy in the sunshine on our face. And it's often when all the energy we put into running away or trying to pretend or create something different that can leave us feeling exhausted and lost and confused. And I love that Rick is such an amazing person with this, because he's helped me with so many times in my life where things were just really kind of uncertain and rough, and I was enduring them. I was really sick for a while. I've had a couple job changes where I didn't have control over it. And we just want to dive into that and help you. Rick, thank you so much for being here.
One of the things that you modeled through that time is that emotional realness also. When we talk about, enduring what's real, it includes a space inside of yourself, hopefully with us tonight and with others in your world, but to acknowledge how you actually feel. I spent most of 2.5 years of my healing journey with my journal as the place where I actually said what I actually was feeling. And that was huge for me, because prior to that, I never would have allowed myself. There's a part of me that's the engineer that, if it's a feeling or it's a reality, wants to improve it, sees ways that it could be different. And that's part of the gift. But the distress of always pushing against reality, it started hitting with everything. My dog would be sick, and I would feel so distressed that my dog was sick. Now, when he got sick, he made sure to vomit in every room of the house. Big dog, lots of, and I'm not wanting to make everyone sick, but hey, that was a real thing. And I discovered what was interesting for me was that when emotional realness started coming into the picture, I'd be like, oh, Kaya's sick. And that activated like the capacity to be with what was there. It was unwanted. I don't want anyone to be sick. I don't want anyone to be sick. I don't want anyone to be suffering. That's a real core thing to me. And there are people that are suffering. There are people that are on ventilators tonight. And there are people that are in their home and not feeling free as they did before. And some of us, I know the realities that existed at New Year's, new decade. And for a lot of people that are here and that are going to listen to this, I know that their world was already smaller than they wanted. Mm-hmm. And then with this reality right now, part of the first thing is to be able to be acknowledging of the emotional reaction that we have. Freedom-loving people don't like our freedoms to be impinged.
I love just acknowledging our reactions, Rick, is a huge thing, because our society so much says, I've got it together. We're supposed to project this of, no, there's nothing wrong. I can handle whatever comes my way. I'm never, like, anything that's happening is a mild inconvenience. I can still work. I can still perform. And it's really a performance. And I love what you're saying about, like, sometimes just being with what actually is, like, the feelings we're actually having is such, and it is core to to tapping is saying, this is where I am, this is what I'm actually feeling, rather than trying to pretend and dance it away or take medicine to, or polish it away or fake it until we go home exhausted and depleted. We do that a lot of our lives. So I think a lot of us are struggling right now with that. Like your journaling or sharing with other people. And I just want to remind people, there's a chat window on the side here. You can find it by putting your mouse over the bottom of the screen. And sometimes just sharing what's real for you right now can be really powerful. Sometimes when I have that kind of resistance, that like, oh, I don't want to do it, it can be like, I think sometimes that's an indication I actually need to do it. And we always want everyone to follow in their own guidance. But one of the things, there's a traumatologist, I posted it on my page, and I think I put it on Thriving Now too, is just like, if you're feeling different than you normally are, this is your body's way, your brain's way of dealing with what is a trauma, a crisis. Our usual methods of handling things has been taken away. Our normal ways where we feel effective, we have jobs, or we have certain patterns, or certain grocery stores, or certain toilet paper we like, that's been taken away, and we don't know when or if or how it's going to be changed. The definition of a trauma is something happening that is overwhelming my resources. I can't imagine anyone is not being traumatized right now. And we can definitely mitigate the consequences so it's not PTSD for years or decades. But right now, what has happened is we have had our normal resources taken away. And a lot of us, our brain is literally kind of like if you catch a rabbit in a cage, it will literally kind of, some of them will go crazy for a while, but most of them will just kind of get quiet and kind of, or just kind of go limp. And I think a lot of people are doing that right now. People are saying, it's often harder for me to get things done right now. It's harder for me to I've had laundry in a wash basket for 2 weeks now. And I keep adding new stuff to the top, and I keep pulling old stuff from the bottom. But luckily this is one of the non-wrinkled shirts, but I haven't, normally my clothes are put away within a day or two, at the far end. And this is 2 weeks. And every day I look at it, I'm like, I'm definitely going to do it today. I'm definitely, no matter what else I'm going to do, I'm going to do it today. And I'm not. And I think it's just really our brains are going, okay, we need to reserve some of our energy for dealing with this crisis. We need to be still and quiet in some ways, and there's nothing wrong. And she also said some people get very hyper alert in cases like this, and neither response is right or wrong. Neither response indicates anything about us other than this is how our system learned to deal with trauma. So she's just like, if we can just be gentle with ourselves right now and just be aware of, people are sharing tired, achy, conserving emotional resources, feeling abandonment of people in hospitals without allowing family members. And this takes back to childhood. And they certainly were not as good in the old days, quote unquote. Deep fear of family or friends getting sick and not being able to be with them. Touch deprivation, emotional regulation is lots harder, and I feel jumpier and way more sensitive to stimuli. And I think that's what you're sharing is what we're all going through. And when we can just share that with each other instead of trying to pretend. I know at work, I'm still working, we're doing Zoom calls, and everyone's like, yeah, it's pretty good. But you can tell some of them are going nuts. They've been locked up with their home. So in California, it's been a month. And so a bunch of them have kids, and they're not used to being around their kids for, all the time. And I can tell they're just not, they're like, oh, it's fine. And I'm like, how come your voice is shaking and your face is like, people are stressed. And I think just acknowledging that just acknowledging, like you said, Rick, that we're looking at what is actually happening to us right now and saying, hey, my brain is not working as well as it normally would for everyday functions. It's actually taking care of a lot. It's trying to keep me in a regulated. It's trying to get me through this. And I think that just that alone can be really powerful if we just slow down enough
Can we slow down for a moment? No, thank you. It covers a lot of the territory. So let's, if you would if you would you be willing to model the, like, okay, would you guide us in a gentle pause of just being with at a
Yeah.
slower pace?
Just a slow, deep breath, if you would. And if you're noticing resistance or sensations in your body, I think we've been really trained not to feel them. So I'm feeling a tension and a kind of ache in my body, like my collarbones and in my core, kind of an ache or a tension. I don't really want to settle into these feelings. I don't really want to feel them. So if you notice any of those things, just notice those sensations and realize we're probably just trained into them. There's nothing wrong. Just let yourself sink into your body, into your feet, feel your toes. And let yourself just kind of instead of um, using adrenaline to try to get up and away from these feelings, let yourself be in them for a minute. If there's tension or fear or tiredness or worry or fear that we'll never get out of it, whatever's going on, like whatever's there, just see if you can be with that for a minute. And just notice the sensations in your body. There's nothing wrong. They're just sensations. Whether it's an ache or a tightness or a tingly, whatever it is. All right, if I do a little tap, we do a little tapping on that, Rick. Would you like to lead it or me?
You can. I'll be
Okay,
your echo.
great.
And if you're not familiar with tapping in the future, you could check out thrivingnow.com/tapping. We have a guide, things, but you can kind of follow along and
Yeah, we'll
see
talk it
what we're
through.
doing.
It's pretty straightforward.
Mhm.
So take a nice slow deep breath. And notice that whatever's happening, your butt is still supported by that chair. You're being held up. The floor is supporting your feet. As Rick always says, gravity is still working. No matter what else is going on, gravity is working really well. And just gently tap on your karate chop point. Even though I don't really want to acknowledge these feelings,
Even though I don't really want to acknowledge these feelings,
they're here right now.
they're here right now.
And I might be spending a lot of energy to avoid them.
And I might be spending a lot of energy to avoid them.
And that tells my primitive brain that they're really scary.
And that tells my primitive brain that they're really scary and there's not enough time.
Or maybe that I can't handle them.
Or that I can't handle them.
The truth is, right this minute, I am handling them.
The truth is, right this minute, I'm handling them.
And I'm really proud of myself.
And I'm really proud of myself for showing up this way.
Top of that, it doesn't feel good to feel these feelings.
It doesn't feel good to feel these feelings.
Eyebrow, I want to get away from them.
I want to get away from them.
Side of the eye, and they're here right now.
And they're here right now.
Under the eye, I don't want to endure this.
I don't want to endure this.
Under the nose, and I'm tired of trying to run away from myself.
And I'm tired of trying to run away from myself.
Chin, what if I'm right here with me right now?
I am right here with me right now.
Collarbone, what if I offered comfort to me right here, right now?
What if I offered comfort to me right here, right now?
Under the arm, instead of judging myself for having these feelings.
Instead of judging myself for having these feelings.
Top of the head, that might be really healing.
That might be really healing, stabilizing.
If you want to take a nice slow deep breath, when I'm calming myself, I'd like to leave my hand on top of my head when I breathe. I don't know why, but it helps me feel like kind of like grounded.
Yeah, we're learning how to stabilize ourselves again in a different ecosystem, different environment right now.
I think of sometimes the cartoons where the cartoon characters try to run away and they jump in the air and they're trying to run really fast so they don't touch the water or something.
Yeah.
But that's so much, and I think I do that. I imagine I do that when I have feelings I don't want to endure. There's part of me that will try to push myself or use a lot of energy to stay away from the water versus just like there's water there. Maybe I can just be with the water.
In the visualization and in the tapping, one of the things that you wove into it is about what's real with me right now, that I can be present with my feelings. I'm sitting in a chair. Gravity is working. I can breathe. It's not the same breath maybe that I had before. Maybe there's a different complexion to it. Tuning into heart, the simple things that are true in your environment. A lot of our work has been around the personal trauma. And when that's true, we have people look around the room and notice that there's no, lions, tigers, and bears. During this time, as you and I were talking, I'm noticing that, I'm noticing the blanket on the table. I have another blanket over there, and I have water. There's so much noticing of threat, just like being alive right now. There's so much information about threat, invisible threat.
You can't see it. So it's
You
like
can't see it. And
look around the room, you can't tell if there's corona there or not.
so, and that probably makes people it made me a little, I don't want to speak for anyone else. It made me a little jump. There was a little jump inside of me. And so I need to, when I get a little jump, I need to notice something that is part of my nesting. If I was someplace else, there would still be some things that are part of my nesting.
Yes.
Water, breath, weight, drink. I had a client today that was resisting that so intensely. And I'm not, please know that it's an invitation, not like you have to do this in order to get through this. And
No.
no, you can do a lot different things. But for those of us that have oomph emotionally, what are the skill sets that we can activate and turn up the volume on? And the things that are grounding about the bed you get into, that you've gotten into previous nights, even if the sleep is different, being able to tune to that, like seeing someone else, we have things that we can hold, we have water that we can drink.
Pets that we can cuddle.
Those are things that are grounding to our nervous system, to our physiology, which is trying to integrate a lot. And the other thing is that when we say that being with the feelings, as people were sharing, there are experiences that we're in touch with because of our technology. I'm really grateful for this technology. I get to see the faces of my friends right now. It's really comforting to me, and new people that I'm really enjoying seeing people's spaces and where they are. And technology also brings in things that we wouldn't ever see, witness if we were actually isolated and quarantined without much of that kind of technology coming to us. So it is, yes, about being with the feeling, but there also is in just when Kathy was leading us, we're coming back into our body. It is okay to not keep with that story. You know, if it's activated you, tap is something that I do. And then coming back into your own skinosphere, what is true for you as a human in the feelings right now. It's almost impossible if I were to put a certain news story on a loop and try to comfort myself through that news story. That's not possible for me. There's certain
They're
things
not,
that have,
yeah, they're not talking about the cases where there's no symptoms. They think up to 25% of people don't have symptoms.
right.
They're
And
not
so,
talking about the people that have a small cold. They're talking about the people that are dying.
yeah, and that activates us. And what I'm trying to put into words is um, that's where when we say be with your feelings, it can be quiet the sensation, okay? The external sensation, and bring up the presence. In many different dynamics where people can go into the red, it's perfectly okay to say, pause, and I'm going to quiet the stimuli and the sensation and the input. And I'm going to bring, what do you do when you do that? So you don't end up like, you just bring up the presence, including like the presence of taking a nap or a meditation or movement or something. Does that make sense? That you're quieting the external sensations down in order to be more present with what's real inside of you or inside of your home, inside of the core relationships that you're connected to.
Yeah.
So,
And I think one of the things I'm trying to do for myself is limit reading the news or watching the news to about a half an hour a day. And I have a couple of good resources that I go to every day to know what's going on. But other than work meetings where people kind of go down the rabbit hole, I'm trying to avoid it because there's a lot of fear and negativity out there, and there are some really serious things happening. And our survival brain does not know the difference between things happening in Italy and China and Taiwan and what's happening in our tribe, the neighbor. So the more we watch the really dramatic stuff on TV, the more fearful our brain gets. And I think that that's not helpful for us. The stress itself is not good for our immune system. If we want to just be purely on the physiological sort of view, it's like if we can get some calm and relaxation in there, it's really good for our body to be more healthy and able to fight stuff off. And it just the stress alone, like I think being in that hyper aware space is not, it adds to the burden of our system has to handle. So if we can, if you know, and please take care of yourself how is best for you. But I do think limiting this amount of stress when it's not something, we're not in the middle of a fire where we can say, oh, we can't say like, oh, never mind, I'll come back and fight it later. The news will still be there later. And most of it doesn't change too much day to day.
would you lead us in a tapping like, okay, I'm jumpy. I notice in my body I'm jumpy. I'm reacting to stimuli at a higher level, and I want to bring myself into more groundedness,
Yeah.
regulate myself,
Yeah.
stabilize myself.
Another nice, slow, deep breath. And just notice how your breath is nourishing your whole body when you're breathing in. You're getting lots of oxygen to all the cells. Karate chop. Hey, primitive brain.
Hey, primitive brain.
You're pretty alert right now, aren't you?
You're pretty alert, to say the least.
I really appreciate how much you care,
I really appreciate how much you care,
how hard you're working.
how hard you're working.
You are trying very hard to keep me safe.
You're trying really hard to keep me safe.
And this is a tough one.
And this is a tough one
because there's nothing you can actually see.
because there's nothing you can actually see.
And that dog barking in the neighbor's yard,
And the dog barking in the neighbor's yard.
that's not anything to be afraid of.
It's not anything to be afraid of.
I so appreciate all your effort.
I so appreciate all your effort.
And maybe we can relax together and pay attention together.
And maybe we can relax together and pay attention together.
Top of the head, you are working so hard, sweetheart.
You're working so hard, sweetheart.
Eyebrow, you're trying so hard to keep me safe.
You're trying so hard to keep me safe.
Side of the eye, to do good things for family and community.
Do good things for family and community.
Under the eye, and we are just by staying inside.
And we are just by staying inside.
Under the nose, we're already doing a good job.
We're already doing a good job.
Chin, there's a few things we can do.
There's a few things we can do.
Collarbone, we can stay inside.
We can stay inside.
Under the arm, we can wash our hands.
We can wash our hands.
Top of the head.
We can
and we
enjoy that.
Yeah, top of the head. And we can take care of ourselves emotionally.
And we can take care of ourselves emotionally.
Eyebrow. And we're doing that pretty well right now.
And we're doing that pretty well right now.
Side of the eye, we're doing the silly tapping thing again.
Definitely doing this silly tapping thing again. Again.
Under the eye, we're breathing.
And breathing.
Under the nose, and we're here with all these other amazing people.
And we're here with all these other amazing people.
Should we even get to role model that we can be calm in the midst of crisis?
We can even occasionally role model that we can be calm in the midst of crisis.
Collarbone, we can be real with ourselves.
And we can be real with ourselves and those we are safe with.
Under the arm, I so appreciate your help, primitive brain.
I so appreciate your help, primitive brain.
Top of the head, let's do this together.
Let's do this together in a stabilized way.
Nice deep breath.
Thank you.
I like what Glenn said. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Oh, just Glenn was saying it's a different buffet of emotions. Some days it's really, he's feeling love with his life, and others it's very emotional, and it might be something different. There's a lot, like there's days where I have lots of energy and I garden and I feel like, oh, I've got this down. This quarantine thing is fine. And the next day I'm like, if I don't have people, it's going to be real bad. And the next day I might just be really tired or down. And it just, we can use some of these techniques to regulate some of the highs and lows and make sure we stay grounded. But I think that that's part of the deal right now, I suspect.
The words touch of grace I added for me. It's an invitation. To me, there's a quality of mindfulness as I think about what we're going through and how we'll rise and what will be necessary of us all as we rise out of this.
Yeah.
That mindfulness says if I'm washing my hands for the 16th time, how might I add just a touch of grace? What does that mean? It can mean making a silly song rhyme. It can be just noticing the bubbles letting the bubbles feel a little different this time than they did last time.
Yeah, it felt to me the warm water and the bubbles feel so good against my skin. And I've been trying to remember to put lotion on afterwards because my hands are getting kind of dry from it.
People are changed. What's dear to me is the notion that like what we're doing here, if this is a way that we want to relate, to be together, that's sustainable after this too.
Yes.
I know there are things that we're doing because of the exceptionalness, and what I'm choosing to tune my Facebook reader to are, oh, that's sustainable. That's really beautiful. That's rich. That's a recalibration that actually can last. Not honestly, I hope that we don't keep the calibration of people looking at each other like we all have cooties. That takes me back to elementary school. Uh,
Yeah, I
but
never
like,
knew what
you
were.
know,
We had to avoid them desperately.
right? What are the things that we, if we're gonna harvest downstream some things about how we relate, the mindfulness that we have, um, what might those be? And I believe that the touch of grace lets us catalog and remember, if I'm going to be touching someone that I love, I wash my hands. If they're people that are vulnerable, I think in terms of like, how can I prepare my being, my body? I extend that out to the emotional vulnerability too. You know, how do we wash up if we're going to be with someone who's emotionally vulnerable in the ways that we are categorizing people based upon certain health characteristics, which may or may not always be true. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I
so
think.
yeah, the luxury of the lotion afterwards. If we
Oh,
just do it like it's a
it's a lot.
task to check off, the that is not a luxury. It won't be something that we will have a different relationship with our arms and hands, um, than we did before. Awareness of space. There are people that, you know, I've always been deeply aware of people's space. Right now we're based upon fear and distancing, but there'll be a time when those bubbles don't need to be maintained for our physical health. But what about the mindfulness and the awareness of others around us? Not everyone's going to get it, but that dance of connection doesn't, it can be a dance of connection, not just a dance of disconnection. And
Yes.
that's what I mean, what I poetically meant by the touch of grace that I'm reminding myself.
Yeah. Well, we planned this for last Sunday, and then Zoom decided
Yeah.
that it wasn't going to give up passwords. Um, yeah, I love the fact that people are sending in pictures and videos where we're sharing the world with animals and nature more. That things have cleaned up and dolphins are in the canals in Venice, and we're learning things. We're also, I have friends that have been asking, some of them have chronic health problems, and they've been asking to work from home forever, and their bosses are, oh, that will never work. And now we're all working from home, and they're like, well, I think that it's going to be harder for them to say I can't now, because this is working, we're getting things done. So Rick, you shared with me, I think there was a little meme about how, like, how if a computer doesn't work or electronic doesn't work, you restart it. And I think an angel was asking God, like, did you try resetting? And they're like, doing it now.
They tried turning it off and on again. Oh, yep, they're doing it now. Yeah.
So this, I think that this may have a lot of grace in it woven in. I do think grace is a blessing that we don't necessarily deserve, or that we haven't earned it per se. It's just something that the universe gives us to show us we're loved. And in this time, if we take the time to slow down when we can, and not beat ourselves up on the times we can't, when we do things to regulate ourselves, we're building up some really powerful muscles that we may not in the normal day of life, like running around trying to keep up with Joneses and keep up with work and keep up with the day to day. we may not have had a chance to build them up as strongly. And it really just being in the moment itself is very powerful. And when I'm in my when things are like, I'm at the low part of the roller coaster, so to speak, because I think it is a roller coaster. It reminds me, when I was at Texas Instruments years ago, they told us, we're going to lay off half of you. We'll tell you which half in a month. And it was just like this horrible, like all of us were like, and literally I was just, okay, I can feel this for 30 seconds and then I can ignore it. Like I can just push it away for 30 seconds. And I did that for like a couple weeks. And just literally like watching clocks around me, 30 seconds, I can feel it, 30 seconds. Because I had no control over what was going to happen, if I was going to lose my job of 8 years or what friends were going to be gone. And it was just that the unknown is very, very hard for us. Our survival brain really evaluates how successful we are by how quickly we can change something that's not comfortable or not environmentally friendly to us. So if a tiger's chasing me and I can get away really quickly and get to a safe space, I'm very, very successful. If if a flood is coming or a fire is coming and I either push it someplace else or I get out of the way, I've succeeded. And now I've won and I can let that go. But with this and things like layoffs or illnesses, we don't always know. We don't always have the ability to get out quickly. And I think that's part of the trauma here is we don't know how long it's going to be. They've extended in California from.
Can we tap on this now that the energy is rising around the uncertainty?
Yeah. Do you want to lead a tapping or do you want me to?
Even though there are uncertainties here.
Even though there's uncertainties here.
And it's real.
And it is real.
I can't hide from it.
I can't hide from it.
It's an unwanted reality.
It is an unwanted reality.
I'm open to accepting it as a reality.
I'm open to accepting it as a reality.
Even though there are uncertainties here.
Even though there are uncertainties here.
There are also some certainties.
There are also some certainties.
And I invite my nervous system to stabilize in that.
And I invite my nervous system to stabilize in that.
There are uncertainties.
There are uncertainties.
I don't like uncertainties.
I do not like uncertainties.
I want things to be certain and good.
I want things to be certain and good.
And there's a lot of uncertainty.
There are a lot of uncertainty.
How do I handle that with a touch of grace?
How do I handle that with a touch of grace?
I want my wisdom.
I want my wisdom.
I want my heart and body wisdom.
I want my heart and body wisdom.
On the arm. My ancestors survived some shit.
My ancestors survived some shit.
It's okay for me to tap into that.
It's okay for me to tap into that.
The quality of being able to be stable amidst uncertainty.
The quality of being able to be stable in the midst of uncertainty. You had mentioned the serenity prayer as part of this, Rick, and I think it's such a brilliant thing because we're talking about, so the serenity prayer, I think most people know it, but is please let me, sorry.
I've got it in front of me if you'd like.
Good, yes, now I'm drawing a blank.
And this is, the person who created it had a number of versions, but the 12-step programs have pretty much used this one now. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
I think that's so brilliant for right now because there are a lot of things that we don't have the power to change. It's not like we can wash our hands 20 times in a day and check off a box. And if we do that for a week, we get to have our lives back. We don't know how long, or this is brand new. We're learning. Just like when we were learning to tie our shoes, we didn't know all the steps. It seemed really daunting to us. We're learning this one. But there are things we can change, like washing our hands mindfully and enjoying that, or tapping, or just being gentle with ourselves if we're having a rough day. And then the wisdom to know the difference is so, that is challenging, and we don't always know. Like sometimes it's like, do I push myself to do this thing? Do I, am I going to be able to get groceries today? Like what, there's things that are unknown still, but we can make our best guess and be gentle with ourselves as we go forward if we can.
That courage to change that which I can, for me in the emotional world, that I can cultivate the courage to be with my feelings and my heart, and to make things, keep it super simple when my resources are not overflowing with generosity and abundance. I don't know any ones that are right now. Keep it super simple, like, okay, I can relax my jaw. I can feel the circle, or attempt to. We use this geometry of a circle so that it honors the humanity of each person, and each of us have a sacred place in the circle.
Yeah.
We each bring our breath, our heartbeat, this beautiful skinosphere of complex things that are happening to balance us at all times. And it takes courage to be present with that, with the humanity of each person, knowing that they are connected to people who are suffering or that they're disconnected from. To allow ourselves to feel that for a moment, and then coming back to your own breath and your own heart.
I think some people are sharing in the chat how just some people have been really dissociated from the fear and overwhelm around the crisis, and tapping into it feels like too much to handle. And I think that's really, if that's where you're at, that's totally okay. We're not saying that by being real means that you have to dive into the midst of the crisis or the pain in any way. We are trying to give space for people that are feeling a lot of that to clear it, because most people's lives have been disrupted to a certain extent, and most people are feeling some discomfort or dis-ease or distress from it, and we think that's important to acknowledge and to do some tapping on it. I think each of us gets to judge how much we want to dive into it, and I don't spend a lot of time reading about it or looking into it. I do enough so I feel aware and comfortable for me, and everyone gets to judge that for themselves.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I'd want to open up and get a read from one or two people if we have time for that. Does that feel good to you? So if you're on the call and you'd like to volunteer, it is being recorded tonight for replay for those people that are in the middle of the night and whose time and schedule doesn't allow for it. But if you feel drawn, you can raise your hand. It's on the participants. If you're on a computer, it's under participants, and then there's a raise hand. And below the participants list on computers, on smartphones, it should be under the ... And if not, Kathy and I will do some tapping as well. Hi, Noreen.
Hi. Thank you for this. Yeah, I'm just feeling so exhausted, tired, and my eyes are leaking 24/7. I mean, and yet I love the laughter that is around. But yeah, I'm
Is your
filing.
energy, it feels like a lot of your energy is going up. Is that true?
Well,
No.
because I was mentally picturing the roller coaster that Kathy had mentioned earlier, and
Do you like
that's,
roller coasters?
do I love them?
Do you like them?
Yeah, I always have.
Okay. So for those of you that like roller coasters, how about if we were in like a roller coaster chair, but it's not going quite the same kind of like it's all going to be done in a minute and a half. It's more like, oh, and see if we can feel more of the change in gravity and elevation and vibration and little twists and turns, just some in the chair, the car, the roller coaster car. What happens in your sit bones as you imagine being in that, feeling yourself, your body, wherever you are on the roller coaster?
Well, like I kind of feel like I'm at the bottom going up, and you know how it kind of, so my butt is kind of in the B of the seat, and it's
Uh-huh.
chugging slowly up. And oh yeah, I've made it to the top. But then you're just down and
So slow it, see
down
if
at
you
the
can slow
bottom.
it down into something that you can track in your sensations. And I have this is an exercise, but part of it is getting into the kinesthetic feeling of a movement. Now, people that love horseback riding, I have them like a canter, right? Has a
Oh
particular
yeah.
rope to it, all right? And there's a period of weightlessness at you're still connected, but your weight has changed. And there's
Okay, well I would rather be on a horse
okay.
right now
Okay.
than
So
a roller
switch.
coaster.
Anyone who wants to
Because
stay on the roller coaster, now we're on the horse. Anyone
yeah,
that wants to just be solid and like watching these crazy people do this thing. So feeling on a horse, we're above the horse's heart. And they're breathing. See if you can just for a moment feel the breath of the animal. Their breath is a little, when they're working, it's a little faster. And now bring your attention to your sit bones and see if you can allow your spine and your body to feel the rhythm, whatever it feels like to you in this moment.
it's beautifully rhythmic.
And now,
Even
yeah, go ahead.
even even entering into a trot,
Mm-hmm.
if you're with it, it's so rhythmic.
And bringing it down into a trot and a walk and feel the different rhythm, the breath of you and the horse, the channel from your heart down to the horse's heart, and from the horse's heart buoying and supporting your whole body and your heart and your mind. And if there's smells that you remember,
Okay. I had a funny memory. One summer when my grandsons, who are now 21 and 19, came to visit, they were maybe 7 and 9 at the time. I took them to Montana de Oro to go horseback riding. And Cedar, the younger one, who had never been on a horse before, was put on this large horse, but the safest and, you know, best one for his age. We got down to the beach, and I mean, we saw dolphins, and of course the sea air. It was just wonderful. Cheyenne's horse kind of started trotting, and Cedar's horse had always just been plodding, walking slowly, but he decided to follow Cheyenne's, and Cedar looks up and he goes, "Nona, look, I'm trolloping." And I said, "Yes, you are." He was just so proud that he too was trolloping.
Yeah. Thank you, Noreen.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That was beautiful. And I was really struck by Rick and Doreen when you were going through that. For me, being on a roller coaster feels very impersonal. And you're going the ups and downs. If you imagine a horse, there's this beautiful being that is sharing an experience with you and looking out for you, especially the nice ones.
And
And
sometimes they lose their cooperation and the like, and yet we're still riding it.
Yeah, and it's easy for me to like kind of lose connection. I usually feel like the universe is looking out for me and has me and is holding me.
Yeah.
And I think that it's easy when I hear all the news and the fear and there's not enough respirators that I can lose that connection with the universe looking out for us and helping us through whatever we experience. That sense of love, that heartbeat that's there with us. And I think that I just was really touched by that part of, you know, when you were sharing that. I was like, oh yeah, I can reconnect with the heartbeat of the universe and just be here with, I have my garden, I have clean laundry, even if it's not been put away. It's still, I have a laundry machine in my house. I don't have to go out for it. I have enough food right now. I have amazing friends I connect with. And like there is a lot of love and abundance here. We're just hearing a lot about how tough things are. And Jean is petting a cat. Oh, that's lovely. I didn't know you had a cat, Jean. She doesn't. Okay. But she found one.
Spirit cat.
Yeah. So I think if we can, when we do allow ourselves to slow down a little bit, when we allow ourselves to feel what we're feeling, then it's a lot easier to feel the heartbeat of the universe, the horse we're riding, and the experiences are up and down. I imagine most people are going to find times are a little more erratic or a little less consistent than they often are. And we're okay. I think that our primitive brain is looking for ways to know it wins, that it's doing a good job. And I think acknowledging, for me, appreciation and acknowledgement is the one thing that will bring my anxiety level down. Yelling at my brain and saying, stop being hypervigilant, does not help. But like, hey, I really appreciate that you're watching out for me. And those kids are playing in the yard next door for years. There's no reason. We do not have to be worried about it now. They're not doing anything that's dangerous or scary. So kind of giving it some appreciation and just being as gentle with ourselves as we can as we go through this is really powerful. Mm-hmm. Allowing ourselves to be in the moment, to feel the love and the wonder that we do have when we can.
Cindy said, paying attention to the little daily changes in nature. Yeah.
My peas, I planted my little container gardens, and my peas, their little heads are sticking out of the ground. It feels very, like I did that.
Thank you all for being here.
Plant mama, yes.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah. If we can, and I just want to honor the courage you all have. It's hard when we don't know how long something's going to last. It's hard to know. It's one thing Rick and I were talking about ahead of time was like, if we know it's a week or something's 10 days, we can kind of count down and kind of hold our breath and not be like, we can kind of skim over the surface like that cartoon character. But this, we really don't know, and it's not in our control. When I was in the hospital, it was like that. A couple of years ago, I had acute respiratory syndrome, whatever it is the people are getting with this, but from a different cause. And literally they didn't know, because day to day it would be different. Some days I would be much better, and then my mom was like, you could be home in a few days, and then I would get 104 fever again. They weren't even sure I was going to make it. But that unknown, that sense of enduring what we don't know when it's going to end, can be really hard on us. But I think there is a beautiful gift in it, in that we can't skim across the surface. I really had to just be with myself where I was. I had to take care of myself where I was, rather than just, I'm going to try to just mitigate the sensation, ignore them enough to get through this to this day, like a calendar I'm checking off. So I think that we don't know how long this is going to last, and it's harder on our primitive brain. And it gives us an opportunity to develop a really beautiful relationship with a part of us that does not like that uncertainty. It might let us be more open to the curiosity and wonder of life in general when we're not under this unknown sense. Because wonder and curiosity are beautiful things to carry with us.
Thank you. Thank you all. If there is something that you would like for us to engage around as a circle,
Let us know.
support@thrivingnow.com comes to Kathy and me. And we have a call planned for later in the month, and we don't know the topic yet. So we wanted to tune in with you as the days continue. What is most alive that you would like to engage around? So please let us know. That goes for the future as well. That's the way that we do this, is in response to what is dear to our community. So, all right. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Blessings to you all.
Bye bye. Yay, Teddy.